chance to unwind. Hopefully it will still be relaxing for you, maybe a little bit more chaotic energy than usual. But I'm gonna do my best to edit the sound, etc. So it's hopefully still gonna be a nice kind of unwind for you. And then I guess secondly, you're probably also thinking, Julia, what are you doing? How is this book content? Well, I have a little loophole which comes in the form of a cocktail, a recipe book I have called Tequila Mockingbird. Tequila Mockingbird. And this is a little book that my sister got me quite some years ago. And it is basically chock full of recipes for cocktails inspired by literary classics. So yeah, that is my little get around. I think basically I'm gonna make the cocktail, have a little bit of chat about that, and then do a little bit of a freestyle ramble relating to the book that the cocktail is very loosely based after. And when I say loosely, I really mean it. I think basically it's just puns on titles of cocktails, hence Tequila Mockingbird. So yes, that is the plan. Also, apologies if there's more background noise than usual. I don't have my headphones in, so I might not be able to hear any loud cars, motorbikes, planes, trains. I get everything around here, so hopefully it will be okay. So, what cocktail are we making today? Well, I was planning on making a classic cocktail. I'm not going to say which, because I will do that another time, I think. But I went shopping for one of the main ingredients to like 1,000 shops, it felt like, around here, and I could not find it. So I was determined to make this video and have a drink with you. So I picked another one. I basically had a look at all the ingredients that I have already and the books that I've read from here. And the only one I could find that I could actually cover today is janeeyre. Which, as you probably can tell, is based on Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So the book has like a little description thing, which I'm gonna read for you. So actually, spoiler alert, before I read this, if you don't know the plot of Jane Eyre and want to read it, this might not be the video for you, because this whole description has some spoilers, and when I'm doing my little ramble at the end, I'm probably gonna put some in there as well. So just a little warning for you. It's kind of a bit irreverent, but it says, "You know what's too tragic to be funny? A feminist survivor story published under a male pseudonym. With Charlotte Bronte writing as Cora Bell, Jane Eyre, think Gloria Steinem in a bonnet, is the retrospective of an abused orphan child turned bored teacher girl turned lovesick governess lady. Unfortunately, her groom already has a wife. Bronte didn't give the heroine any breaks, and Jane sets off on a soul quest, refusing subsequent marriage proposals, and eventually landing the man, the baby, the happy home. Bronte wasn't so lucky don't know if this counts as specifically English gin. What's cool about this is it's in a paper bottle, and it has like a foil insert, so it's supposed to be more sustainable for like environmental reasons. And it is produced in Norfolk, and Gyre and Gimble is the name, and it's that's taken from Lewis Carroll, the poem The Jabberwocky, I think. So again, with the literary connections, so that is the gin that I'm going to be using. And then the recipe said to use orange bitters. Well, I have these Angostura bitters, which I have googled, and apparently that's the same thing. So I got lucky that I had this random bottle in my cocktail cabinet area. So first thing I'm gonna do is get my cocktail shaker. And then I'm going to add in 2 ounces of the gin, which I just looked up. Apparently that's like 1 1/3 shots. I'm just going to use my shot glass, which is actually like 2. I think it's 2 shots. And this is my really childish sense of humour. No kangaroos in Austria. So, yeah, here we go. And I am filling her all the way up, basically. Okay, that's the gin. And then it said a couple of dashes of this orange bitters. So I think that'll do. The next thing is some lemon juice. So I need to chop up the lemon, and I have my juicer here, which it looks so grimy. I promise this has been washed. I think the acidity is kind of, I don't know, degraded the plastic, which is entirely concerning, but I use it anyway. So we are chopping up the lemon. I think it says 1 ounce of lemon juice, so it's like half the amount of the gin that I used. Okay, that's probably too much now. Just gonna see how that goes. That's probably gonna be way too strong. Now for some mint leaves. It said 8 sprigs, which, if that's a sprig, that's a lot of mint. Or is that a sprig? Oh no. Or is that a sprig? I don't know. I'm just gonna randomly guess how much I should be putting in. And it did say in the recipe to tear it a little bit, so you're gonna do that. And this is the point where I totally lose track of how much I'm putting in anyway, so let's go for it. I do love mint. It's the most refreshing herb, I think, in many ways. doesn't get used maybe as much as some others, but I do love it. Okay, I'm just gonna put loads of mint in. Like I say, I love it. So I think the more the better, right? Okay, that'll do. That's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these kind of sprig things. Okay, so this is where we're at currently. Just have to put the sugar in now. It's right here. So the recipe said granulated sugar, which I only have a light soft brown sugar, which is not the same thing, but we're going with what I've got. So it's a lot. Okay, a random amount. I think that was roughly 1.5 teaspoons. And then the final thing is some ice. I don't know how much to put in. I love a lot of ice in my drinks, so I'm going with more rather than less. Okay, now I can face you again properly. And I made a bit of a mess, but let's see how it goes. Okay, I think that'll do. And now all that's left to do is to pour into a cocktail glass. And it does say to strain it as well, so using the little strainer on top. Okay. It's not the most appetizing colour. So yes, this doesn't look like the nicest colour of a drink I've ever made. And it does have some mint leaves floating in it. But cheers. Happy Friday. Surprisingly quite nice. Like, you can definitely taste the gin coming through, but it's mostly like lemony, minty, fresh, really nice. I'd happily sip along to this while reading a little book or chatting with some friends or something. So yeah, I'm actually really surprised that this has turned out quite nice. Good, like it's quite strong. I do like gin. If I'm like going to a bar or something, and I'm going to have spirits, I would probably have like a gin and tonic quite often, or maybe a rum and coke if I'm feeling a little bit more fun. But yeah, gin's good, but this is like definitely on the side where you wouldn't want to have too much more. I think I did put more in than it said, so just freestyling with it now. So yeah, Jane Eyre, absolutely classic book, super famous, obviously. And something that I read like 10 years or so ago, I think. I have to admit, like, it's absolutely not one of my favourite classics, and it doesn't even get close to being one of my favourite books. I should probably say what it's about, and this is the point again, like, spoiler alert, because I read it so long ago, I can't really remember what you know in advance, or like what happens at what point, like what's like kind of supposed to be a surprise. And I think actually a lot of people know like roughly some of the stuff that happens anyway. So yeah, Jane Eyre is like an orphan, I think, and she goes to like a school and she ends up teaching there, and then in order to kind of like expand her horizons, she goes to be a governess at this like stately home. I can't remember what the place is called. So she's looking after a young girl there, and then like the mysterious owner of the hall is famous Mr. Rochester. Mr. Rochester. And they have like a bit of an interesting relationship. Like she doesn't meet him initially, and then they kind of come together. And I think do they not maybe like each other to start with? It might be like a slight kind of take on enemies to lovers, maybe. But I think they end up like spending a bit of time together, and then he quite respects the fact that I think she's like intelligent and quite like forthright, I think. I could be completely wrong with this, it's been a long time. And then they kind of fall in love. I think he's supposed to be like with someone else, but then he changes his mind and decides he wants to get with Jane. But then Jane finds out that he's already married, and she like obviously like runs off. At that point, she then meets someone else that goes tits up. Cheers. This is what happens when you drink and you try and talk about books. So yeah, that goes wrong, and then she ends up right at the end like coming back to Mr. Rochester, and they get together. That's like a super brief summary, I think. One of the main things about this though is, and I think what it's quite famous for, is the whole like the trope of the mad woman in the attic. So it turns out that Mr. Rochester's first wife, she kind of goes mad. I can't remember the details, like why that happens. But obviously, like this is Victorian England. Like mental health is not something that anyone really cared about. So instead of helping her deal with whatever issues she has, they lock her away, which is obviously just gonna make things worse, right? So she's kind of living in this house, and like that, I guess that's like kind of like an interesting aspect of the story, because it makes it like kind of quite creepy, because Jane obviously doesn't know that to start with, and you know, it's kind of like gothic feeling, like a little bit like thrillery. You know, what's going on? What are these noises? Did I see like a figure in the window, kind of thing? So that's like quite an interesting aspect to it. But yeah, like I said, I didn't love the book that much. And I hate to say it, but I just didn't like Jane that much. I should probably slow down, but yeah, Jane, I think maybe if I reread it now as an older person, not that old, but I would, I think I would really see the positive sides to her. The fact that she is, you know, ahead of her time in many ways, and the fact that, yeah, obviously Charlotte Bronte writing as a woman, back in a time when that wasn't socially accepted, women obviously were very much like second class citizens, so like lots of like positive things there. And yeah, Jane is very like self-assured in many respects, like I say, very intelligent, conscious, I guess. And I don't know why I think this. I think I might be either misremembering it or like I read it at a time when I was like reading in, like interpreting it in a completely incorrect way. Like reading is so subjective. So, if I was like 18, 19 or whatever at the time, how I reacted to reading it, I kind of took things in a different way. But yeah, I found her like kind of like not like self-pitying, because I don't think that's the right word, but she was kind of always like putting herself down and being like, oh, I'm not attractive, oh, I'm like inferior in this way and that way. And she was not, I don't think she was doing it in a kind of self-pitying manner, but I think I read her at the time as if it was, and that just kind of got on my nerves. And obviously being moral is a fantastic thing, but in my kind of heroines and heroes, I like a bit of like, grey in a certain to a certain extent. And yeah, I guess I just found her like too like on a level somehow, if that makes sense. So yeah, she wasn't my favourite main character, but like I say, I think, obviously a really important book. Loads of people absolutely love it. I just preferred, personally, of the two Bronte novels that I've read, I much prefer Wuthering Heights. And that's one of my all-time favourites, which I talked about in a recent video. So I think because I was comparing it to that as well, and I'd already kind of fallen in love with Wuthering Heights, I just didn't enjoy it to that extent. Like, it's much more like straightforward, like narratively, and for a classic, like, it's actually not too bad to read. Obviously, like, any classic that's written over 100 years ago, there are going to be challenges for modern audiences, whether that's in the writing style or the kind of opinions and behaviours at the time that we're just like, whoa, what is this? But yeah, generally like not too hard to read, and I would suggest probably like people pick it up if they haven't, because loads of people do love it, and it is iconic, ahead of its time, and all that kind of stuff. I think from a relationship perspective, it's funny, it's kind of similar in a way to like Wuthering Heights. Like people, they see it, like they know about Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre, like Heathcliff and Cathy, and people kind of think these are like amazing romance stories, but like certainly the relationship between Jane and Rochester is really full of difficulties. Like he's quite condescending to her at times because he's socially superior, and essentially like he's her employer as a governess, so lots of kind of things to navigate in terms of their relationship, and he doesn't behave very well at times. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one when you have people thinking like this is one of the greatest like love stories, or like a romance to kind of put on a pedestal, and definitely I think not that, and it's good to kind of think a little bit more critically about it. Although if you just want to have fun and read it as like a good romance, then yeah, that's also fine. Like you do you kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's all I probably have to say about Jane Eyre. Considering I haven't read it for such a long time, I haven't done too bad at rambling on a little bit about the book. I mean, ultimately, the Bronte sisters were such pioneers, and really amazing kind of models in that sense. Like so creative, and cheers to them.